For as long as humans have been sailing the sea, they've been collecting stories about strange occurrences like mermaids, sea monsters, magic realms, and ghost ships. Now, we do need to remember that most of these stories come from sex-crazed men full of rum and syphilis, so we should take them with a grain of salt. But there is one genuine mystery, and to this day, it remains unsolved over 150 years after it was discovered. Today on History Hobbit, we're exploring the bizarre account of the haunted ship, the Mary Celeste. It was December 4th, 1872, and Captain David Morehouse, commander of the Canadian ship De Grazia, scanned the horizon with his telescope, and he noticed another vessel drifting aimlessly through the ocean. That was the Mary Celeste, a cargo ship that had left New York City Harbor 8 days before him. It was loaded up with 1,700 barrels of industrial alcohol. Captain Morehouse knew that the Mary Celeste should have arrived in Genoa, Italy already, and realizing that something wasn't right, he changed course in order to investigate further. When crew members from the De Grazia entered the Mary Celeste, they found her deserted without indication of why or where everyone had gone. There were no signs of a fire, violence, or a struggle of any kind. The cargo was also untouched, which ruled out pirates or seafaring alcoholics, although the hatches on the deck were left open. Remember that for later. One of the pumps wasn't working as well, and over 3 feet of water sloshed around the bottom of the ship, which was a significant amount, but not an alarming amount. The only important item missing was the single lifeboat that had been on board, and obviously the people. The final log entry placed the Mary Celeste within sight of Santa Maria Island in the Azores, a group of 9 volcanic islands in the middle of nautical nowhere. 10 people were missing from the ship, including Captain Benjamin Briggs, his wife Sarah, their 2-year-old daughter Sophia, and 7 crew members. None of them was ever seen or heard from again. Briggs was part owner of the Mary Celeste and a very experienced sea commander. He had handpicked his crew, all regarded as some of the best sailors around. Now, they certainly weren't the type to abandon ship without a good reason. So what was that reason? Why and how did the people aboard the Mary Celeste disappear without a trace? After finding the ship, Captain Morehouse opted to sail it to Gibraltar in order to claim salvage. Salvage law states that anyone who recovers a deserted ship is entitled to a reward in proportion to the value of that ship's cargo. Upon investigation by the Attorney General in Gibraltar, it was initially suggested that the disappearance was due to foul play. There were marks on the ship that looked like they could have been from an axe, and dark stains of some kind on the captain's sword that could have been blood. But eventually, scientific tests were conducted, and they ruled out this possibility. The Mary Celeste was released from investigation, and Morehouse and his men were paid a reward. Now, pretty quickly, rumors began to circulate that Morehouse and his crew had killed the occupants of the Mary Celeste in order to collect the salvage money. Others figured that Morehouse and Briggs worked as a team to collect an insurance payout, but neither of these explanations had any concrete evidence to them, and they eventually lost any credence. Over the years, the story was passed down between generations, and grossly exaggerated fictional versions were published, making it even more difficult to determine what actually happened. In recent times, historians have theorized that a seabed earthquake could have generated enough force to cause a spill of the alcoholic cargo, resulting in an explosion. Now, an explosion would have certainly concerned Captain Briggs and could have led him to evacuate the ship, and it's also worth noting that 9 barrels of the 1,700 total were missing when the Mary Celeste was found, and those 9 were made of red oak, which is far more porous than the standard white oak that the rest of the barrels were made of. Now, this explanation sounds pretty reasonable, right? But if it were true, why were there no signs of an explosion within the ship? No burn marks, damage, or evidence of an explosion of any kind was found. And this was a major hole in the earthquake theory until 2006, when Dr. Andrea Sella conducted an experiment. She built a replica of Mary Celeste cargo hold and used butane to create the same type of explosion that could have happened on board. Just as she suspected, the result was a massive explosion with no trace whatsoever. According to Sella, the trapped gas below deck could have created a pressure wave explosion with a short surge of flames followed by cool air. This kind of disturbance would have been enough to blow open the hatches and send everyone fleeing for their lives. And remember how I mentioned that the hatches were found open? For many, this is a satisfactory explanation, but for forensic researcher Anne McGregor, she thinks there's something more going on here. After carefully examining the notes from the salvage trial, along with Captain Briggs's log, McGregor concluded that the ship's instruments were damaged as Briggs's measurements appeared to be wrong. He was actually 120 miles west from where he thought he was, and with a pump not working and the ship slowly taking on water, Briggs may have concluded that it was safest to jump in the lifeboat and head for the island of Santa Maria, which, according to his faulty calculations, was nearby. Briggs would have been sickened to discover that he was nowhere near Santa Maria, and with just a small lifeboat, he and his crew could have easily been whisked away by the ocean, never to be heard from again. We'll never know for sure what happened to Briggs and his crew that day, but we do know that bad fortune continued to follow the Mary Celeste after the story of Briggs circulated. She began to earn a reputation of a haunted ghost ship. The owners were forced to sell her at a loss, and her next captain would die of illness on board. Finally, she was intentionally sunk 6 years later off the coast of Haiti by a desperate captain hoping to earn a juicy insurance payout. With such a history of spooky misfortune, perhaps it's best that she now lies in a watery grave. Thanks for watching.